Welcome back, guys, into this thing that excites me so much. I'm studying coding with Codecademy. I'm learning programming Python 3, and I'm 44 now. So if I can do it, I hope this will challenge you to go ahead and do it. And the question I've put in the description is it useful? Let me know in the comment section. I'm 44. What's the point of learning programming at this age? Will I be successful? Learning as an old man is not as easy. And I think the challenge I'll put out there is if I can do it, then so can you. And if I do any exciting software projects, I want you to remember this is how it started. I tried to learn programming a while back, but I went through maybe the first 10 pages or something. I didn't go very far, watched a couple of YouTube videos, try again to learn, and I didn't make much progress. The YouTube video I was learning from was about an hour, but really I didn't make much progress. So yeah, here we go. So I'll go back to my program. I'm learning from Codecademy. I do recommend it highly, wholeheartedly. It's a very good structure for programming. You don't have to install too many things. They have an emulation or an emulator sort of, and you're able to just enter your code, plus they quiz you, they mark what you're doing, and yeah, this is where we are. I'm at about 28% of can I say learning Python 3. I'm going pretty fast. I think this program is going to take a couple of weeks, like 6, but I'm committed to finish everything within 2 weeks or less, and hopefully meaningfully. But it also means that I probably will have to redo it a couple of times and see if I can get better at it. So yeah, without streaming, I actually watched this video called Tuples, and if you were with me in what I was doing last time, I was working with lists, and Tuples this time is like lists. The difference is,
hey, my name is Mike. I'm a developer from Philadelphia.
Sorry, Mike, let me just mute you a little bit. Yeah, but tuples are like lists. The only thing is that Mike says they're immutable. Immutable means that once you create them, you can't add to them, and you can't change the order and stuff like that, and that can be quite useful. So I already watched the whole video, so I'll not go through it once again. I'll just keep it as is, and yeah, I think we'll leave it at that and move to the next article, the zip function. Join me. So I did 2 hours in the night, between 1 and I think 3 in the morning, and I did about 6 minutes this morning, and now we are back. Okay, so I think there is something for me to read here. Let me just go through it. So we're learning about a popular Python built-in function called zip. In Python, we have an assortment of built-in functions that allow us to find our program fast and clean. And one thing I figured out is that for the so-called inbuilt functions, then it's the can I say the method, and then the brackets, and you give the parameters in, as opposed to the others that will then be dot, then that function or something. I'm just guessing. I'm not sure how true that is. The zip function allows us to quickly combine associated data sets without needing to rely on multi-dimensional lists. While zip can work with many different scenarios, we are going to explore only a single one in this article. Let us use a list of students' names associated heights as an example data set. Jenny is 61 inches tall, Alexa 70, Sam 67, Grace 64. Suppose you already have had a list of their names and we have their heights. If you wanted to create a nested list that is that paired, sorry, one moment, I think I have to, okay, that's pretty unexpected. One moment, please. Let me just, what do I do here? I probably have to find, where is this camera? Let's just see if that works. I hope you're back. Yeah, that's much better. So, sorry, I had to go off for a moment just to address something else that was coming through the phone, which I'm now, right now, just going to mute so that if a phone call comes through, it's not as loud as it was. Great. So let's just go back and we're doing some reading. This is serious study. I'm not very good at multitasking, so I'll try and do all that. Okay, so we have those lists, 2 of them, and giving the names and the heights. If you wanted to create a nested list that paired each name with the height, we could use a built-in function called zip. A zip function will take 2 or more lists as inputs and returns an object that contains a list of pairs. Each pair contains 1 element from each of the inputs. This is how we would go do it. So we have a variable called names and heights is equal to zip. Then we do names and we do heights. And if you were to then examine this new variable, we print that out, would output zip object at okay, this zip object, that's, I don't understand why it's printing like this. This is the output here, right here. So what will output that? Okay, this zip object contains a location of this variable in our computer memory. Don't worry though, it's fairly simple to convert this here. So there's another method I know which is called list, and you can actually print usable list by using the built-in function list. So converted list is equals to list names and heights, and then we could do converted list will output okay, notice 2 things. Our data set has been converted from a zip memory object to an actual list donated by we can call that those brackets. Our inner lists don't use square brackets around the values. This is because they have been converted into tuples. An immutable type of list. Let's practice using zip. Okay, coding questions. Use zip to create a new variable, names and dog names, that combines owners and dog names list into a zip object. Then create a new variable, list of names and dog names, by calling the list function on the names and dog names. Then print list names and dog names. I want to believe this is pretty straightforward. Let me see if I've understood everything that I'm meant to be doing. So our new variable is names. I could copy paste, but send dogs names is equals to zip. I could copy paste, but I'm learning to type, which also gives you a bit of practice. So we have our 2 lists there, owners and dogs names. Great. And this should create an object in memory that is called names and dog names. Now we need to convert that. Okay, we have a new variable, list of names and dogs names. So Codecademy is very specific. You have to write it exactly as it is, otherwise it may give you a buzz. You don't want that. A list of names and dogs, because I'd have said dog names, not dogs names, but it's fine. So, and you want to now print, but this time I'm going to just copy and paste, because I'm not going to print this again. Type this again, copy that, Control C, place it there, Control V it there, and let's enter. Do I have a run button? Let me see. Yeah, I do have run. Let me run it. Yep. Okay. Is it correct? Let's check. Jenny, Alphonse, Alexis, Dr. Doggy, DDS, Sam, Carter, and Grace Ralph. Worked like a charm. And what is inside the list? These are tuples. So tuples actually take brackets as opposed to normal brackets, as opposed to the square brackets. And yeah, let's check my answer. And got a clap there. We got it very nice. The next one. Oh, that's it. Okay, so I'm done with this. We'd love to hear about your experience. Tell us what you think. Your feedback will help us learn and improve. How satisfied are you with this course so far? That's clear 6 out of 5. Is there anything we can do to improve your experience? Your feedback will go directly into our curriculum and product teams. Type your answer here. Currently, no. Currently, it seems perfect. I think it is actually. So I'm not just saying that. I think I'll even add there, thank you, Codecademy. Is it free? Actually, I'm still on my free trial period, which is 1 week, but thereafter you have to pay, I think, about the equivalent of $15 every month thereafter, something like that. I'm not sure exactly the precise amount, but something like that. Yeah, thank you for sharing your feedback. Submit. Okay, all done. Thanks for your time. Let's exit that survey. All right, now we are going to loops. Before I go to loops, let me just go back home and just confirm my progress. I'm at 30%. Very good. So let's go to my lesson, loops. These I've done how many? Wait. Let me show you what I've done. So far, I started on Thursday. So I had Thursday, Friday. Then, no, I haven't done 5 days. I've done 5 days. That doesn't sound right, because I thought I've done 4 days. How have I done 5? Maybe they're counting from I don't know. Maybe the time zones are different. But I sort of feel I've done 4 days. Okay, so I've done 30% of Python in 5 days. If I want to finish in 2 weeks, I need to step up and get to, in the next 2 days, get 50%. I think I'll do that because today is a Sunday. I think I can do a little bit more. So that's what I intend to do. We're into loops. Before we go to writing our own loops, let's explore what programming would be like if you couldn't use loops. Let's say we have a list of ingredients. You want to print every element in the list. Okay, so we have milk, sugar, vanilla extract, dough, chocolate, whatnot. That's a list of ingredients. If you only use print, a program might look like this. Print ingredients at 0, print ingredients at 1, at index 2, index 3, index 4. So those square brackets, those are the indices. 0 represents the first element, chocolate will be fourth, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, very nice. The output will be 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's still manageable. We're writing 5 print statements or copying and pasting a few times. Now imagine if you were to come back to this program and at least had like 10 or 24,600 or 100 million elements. It will take an extremely long time, and by the end we could still end up with inconsistencies and mistakes. True. Don't dwell too long on this scenario. We'll learn how loops can help us out in the next exercise. For now, let's gain an appreciation for loops. I think that's a pun, because I know there's a loop called for somehow. I think there's such a thing. I mentioned ever. Yeah, so that's a pun. It's pretty nice. Okay, using 10 print statements, print out. This can be so much easier with loops. Okay, so that's easy. Print, parentheses, make it a string. This can be so much easier with the loops, and we have to add that exclamation, otherwise we'll get a wrong. There's a nice shortcut here, Control C, so we can, using 10 print statements, Control V, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, let's run that. Let's see if we get a green check. Yep, there we go. All right, next. Now that we can appreciate what loops do for us, let us start with your first type of loop, a for loop. Anyway, a type of definite iteration. In a for loop, we We know in advance how many times the loop will need to iterate because we'll be working on a collection with a predefined length. In our examples, we'll be using Python list as a collection of elements. With for loops on each iteration, we'll be able to perform an action on each element of the collection. Before we work with the collection, let's examine the general structure of a for loop. So I'm reading what's on this side. So this is where the info is, what you need to learn. This is where you enter your code and do your exercises, and this is sort of the terminal or the console, is it? I'm not sure that those two are interchangeable, but basically where it prints out whatever it is that you're doing. And that's one of the advantages of Codecademy. You don't have to go, keep moving from left to right. It's really, really well structured. Let's break down each of these components. Forward indicates the start of a for keyword indicates the start of a for loop. A temporary variable that is used to represent the value of the element in the collection the loop is currently on. An in keyword separates the temporary variable from the collection used for iteration, and a collection to loop over. In our examples, we'll be using a list, and an action to do anything on each iteration of the loop. Let's link these concepts back to our ingredients example. This for loop prints each ingredient in ingredients. Okay, so ingredients is that's our list, that's our collection. For ingredient in ingredients. Okay, so I think this is the temporary variable that is used to represent the value of the element in the collection the loop is currently on. For ingredient, print ingredient. Okay, so we have for the keyword, the temporary variable in separates the temporary from the collection used for the iteration, collection, and action. Okay, so there are 5 things in the for loop. So the keyword, we make a temporary variable that we're going to be, will basically contain what it is you're picking from the collection. Then you put in, and in the collection, which is ingredients, and then you print ingredients. Okay. In this example, ingredients is temporary variable, ingredients is our collection, print ingredients is the action, blah blah. This outputs all those. Some things to note about for loops. Temporary variables. A temporary variable name is arbitrary, does not need to be defined beforehand. Both of the following code snippets do the exact same thing. For I in ingredients, print I. For item in ingredients, print item. Understood? Programming best practice is to make our temporary variables as descriptive as possible. Since each iteration step of a loop is accessing an ingredient, it makes more sense to call our temporary variable ingredient rather than I or item. Indentation. Notice that in all of these examples, the print statement is indented. Okay. The print statement is indented. Everything at the same level of indentation after the for loop declaration is included in the loop body and is run on every iteration of the loop. Okay, understood. If we ever forget to indent, we'll get an indentation error or unexpected behavior. Okay, elegant loops. Python loves to help us write elegant code, so it allows us to write simple for loops in one line. In order to see the below example as one line, you may need to expand our narrative window. Here is a previous example in a single line, so let's just expand that window. Okay, for ingredient, in ingredients, print ingredients, print ingredient. Okay. One line for loops are useful for simple programs. Let's see what we had previously. There's a colon at the end, otherwise we'll run into trouble. Okay. Note, one line for loops are useful for simple programs. It's not recommended you write one line loops for any loop that has to perform multiple complex actions on each iteration. Doing so will hurt the readability of your code and may ultimately lead to a buggier code. Let's practice writing our own for loop. Run the code. Okay, run the code. So what code we have here? Board games are settlers of Catan, Carcassonne, Power Grid, Agricola, and Scrabble. Sport games: football, hockey, baseball, cricket. For game, in board games, print game. So game is a temporary variable, board games as we're printing. I expect to see Settlers of Catan, Carcassonne, Power Grid, Agricola, and Scrabble. Let's run that. Oh, we have an indentation error, I think. So this needs to just go in one bit. Then let's run that. Okay. So indent 2 spaces or tab, indent 2 spaces or tab line 6 so that we don't get indentation error when you run the code. Run again. That's been done. Okay. Write a for loop that prints each spot in the list sports games. I think that should be fairly easy. Let's remove that indentation error. So we do for like call this spots, spot in sport games, and what we are doing is print spot. I think that should work. I think. Let's run it. And before that, we can actually close that. Close that. Actually, no, we don't need to close the. Okay. Let's run. Line 7, indentation, unexpected indented block. Okay. What? Hello, Dr. Brahman. Yes, please. Yes, please. All right. All right. Mm-hmm. 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 Okay. Okay. All right. Easy. Any repeat scan has been done? Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that was when DCS was 13, isn't it? So we have to check it. Absolutely. And then secondly, okay, I think that's fair. Was your 94? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. Yeah, but since there's a clear history of RT of trauma, then you just want to double check. And since the GCS was 13, not 15, it means there could be some, we need to be clear about getting the full definition. So do a follow-up scan and ensure that is an article versions and stuff. And because of the current GCS instrument band, okay, so sorry, I had just a colleague of mine was asking me something that I had to respond to. That is, but I think they're doing a good job. So, let me see, where was I? Yeah, I was encountering a serious error. Sorry, I was not required. It's just information. We share information so we know what's going on. But there's always a colleague on the ground, and sometimes we consult each other. So it's telling me about an indentation error for sport. Really, I don't understand what's going on here. My apologies. Okay. Let me just copy this and see where I'm getting this indentation error. Control V. Wait a minute. Maybe it's that hash thing that I put in. Okay. Okay, let's put here again. I think this should work. Let's run. Good. So, what was happening is, since I put a hash here, it was expecting an action, but there's no action. So let's run. That's why I'm getting an indentation error, because it's expecting an action, but there's no action because I had hashed the action. So I'm also learning something there. So let's put this for game in board games. Board games print game. I think that is still gonna work. Let's run. We'll have Settlers of Catan, Carcassonne, Power Grid, Agricola, Scrabble, Football. But I am audible. Let me just check. Audio? Yeah, I think audio is on. Alright, so Agricola, Scrabble, Football, Hockey, Baseball, Cricket. Yeah, alright. Let's see. Okay. For loops using range, often we won't be iterating through a specific list or any collection, but rather only want to perform a certain action multiple times. For example, if you wanted to print out a learning loops message 6 times using a for loop, we would follow this structure: for temporary variable in list of length 6 print learning loops. Notice that we need to iterate through a list with a length of 6, but you don't necessarily care what is inside of the list. For temporary in list of length 6. Okay, to create arbitrary collections of any length, we can pair our for loops with the trusty Python built-in function range. An example of how the range function works with this code generates a collection of 6 integer elements from 0 to 5. 6 steps is equals to range 6. 6 steps is now a collection with 6 elements. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. We can then use, so range created a list. We can then use the range directly in our for loops as the collection to perform a 6-step iteration. For temp in range 6 print learning loops. Okay, so here I'm a little bit confused. I sort of can replicate exactly what I'm seeing, but my understanding of it is not perfect. I'm trying to understand why, and partly it's because I've forgotten what range does. Let me ask some trusty guy I've come across recently. He's called ChatGPT. Okay, how does the range function work in Python? Let's ask that question again. Okay, yeah. Boss, I don't want a PhD in this. Okay, but ChatGPT is a really useful thing. You should learn to use it. Just introduce AI into stuff. You can see, I don't know if you can see on my left side, I've been doing quite a bit of, I've used this, what do you call it? ChatGPT quite a bit, preparing something about upper respiratory tract infections, neonatal resuscitation, and a couple of things. Anyway, but let's see. The range function is a Python. In Python, what does it look like by the way? One moment, please. I just come and check the screen to be sure. All right, you'll probably see at the top what it looks like. But let me go back. Yeah, the range function in Python generates a sequence of numbers that are specified within a sequence of numbers within a specified range. It's commonly used in loops to iterate a specific number of times. Generally, the general syntax for range is as follows: range, start, stop, step. We did that yesterday. So we start at this index, stop at that index, exclusive, and this is a step. The parameters used are: start optional, specifies the starting point of the range. The sequence will be given from this value. If not provided, it defaults to 0. Stop requires the end point of the range. The sequence will stop before reaching this value. It doesn't return the value itself, and optional. Okay, so this is what we're learning yesterday. Okay, the range function returns an object of the range class which represents the sequence of numbers. This object is not a traditional list, but a generator that produces values on the fly as you iterate over it. It saves memory since it doesn't generate all the numbers in advance. Here's an example. This is range. For I in range, you start at 1 up to 5. Print I. It will do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In this example, range, and this is always a bit confused because that's not index 1, that's just 1. In this example, the range 1 to 6 generates a sequence of numbers from 1 to 5, excluding 6. The for loop iterates over this sequence and each number is printed. You can also convert the range object to a list using the list function if you need to store all the generated numbers as a list. So numbers is equals to a list range 1 to 6, print numbers, it makes a list. Okay, very nice. By specifying the step parameter, you can define the increment in the numbers. Simple range 0, 10, 2 will print all numbers from 0 to 10 and minus 9, so that will be 0 to 8, I think. Print I, that's okay. I hope this explanation helps you understand how range function works. Yes, it does. Thanks a million. Okay, so I'm talking to a machine, actually code. Thanks a million. So I don't think that it gets what I'm saying, but hopefully feedback also helps AI work. So that's AI better than doing Google searches. So let's go back to our course and then see. Okay, fine. So an example of how the range function works: this code generates 6 integers 0 to 5. Okay, we can then use the range directly in our for loops as the collection to perform a 6-step iteration. Okay, something to note is that we are not using temp anywhere inside the body, inside of the loop body. If you're curious about which loop iteration we are on, we can use temp to track it. For temp in range 6, print learning loops. Okay, something to note is that we're not using temp, that's the temporary variable, anyway inside the loop body. If you're curious about which loop iteration step we are on, we can use temp to track it. Since our range starts at 0, we will add +1 to attempt to represent how many iterations, steps, or loop takes more accurately. For temp in range 6 print, loop is an iteration plus convert temp to string +1. Loop is an iteration number 1, loop is an iteration number 2. Okay, it's a bit complicated, but I think I've understood it. Let's try using range in a for loop. Use the range function in a for loop to print out the provided promise variable 5 times. Okay, for, let's see, let's make it a string. In range, we are printing 6 times, so let's do, it will do 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I think. Let's do a colon. Maybe, let's see. Print promise. Okay. Use the range function in a for loop to print out the provided promise variable 5 times. So we want to print that variable promise. We want to print it 5 times, and it will be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times. Okay, let's do that. Let's run. Very good. I will finish the Python loops module. I'll finish the Python loops module. I will finish the Python loops module. I will finish the Python loops module. I will finish the Python loops module. I'm saying that for myself, and I will finish the Python loops module. Okay. Next. Put a green tick. Got it right. Okay. While loops. Introduction in Python for loops are not the only types of. In Python for loops are not the only type of loops. We can use another type of loop called while loop, and is a form of indefinite iteration. A while loop performs a set of instructions as long as the given condition is true. The structure follows this pattern: while, a conditional statement, then an action. Okay, let's examine this example where we print the integers 0 through 3. Count is equals to 0. While count is less or equals to 3, print count, and then you increment count. Okay, so increment is this thing, plus equals means it adds 1, and then assigns, it's like it adds whatever you've set, and then to the previous one, 0 plus 1, so the next count. Okay, count is initially defined with the value of 0. The conditional statement in the while loop is count. Whenever if count is equal to less than 3, which is true at the initial iteration of the loop, so the loop will execute. Instead, the body count is printed and then incremented by 1. When the first iteration of the loop has finished, Python returns to the top of the loop and checks the condition again. After the iteration, count will be equal to 1, so the condition is true, loop continues, and this until the count value becomes 4. At that point, the condition is tested, no longer be true, and the loop will stop. That which will be 0, 1, 2, 3. Note the following about while loops before we write our own indentation. Notice that in our example, the code under loop is indented, similar to for. I think that's clear. If you forget to indent, we'll get an indentation error. I'm seeing something called elegant loops, meaning we can do them in one line, but again, I suspect they don't recommend elegant loops. Count is equals to 0, while count, print count, count plus, oh wait a minute, print count, colon, and semicolon, then count. Okay. So this is the first time I'm meeting a semicolon in this Python class. Let's practice writing a while loop. Okay. Examine the while loop from the narrative in your code editor. That's here. So while count is 0, print starting while loop. While count is less or equal to 3, loop body, print if the condition is still true. Print loop iteration is still true. Print the current value. Print count is currently. Convert count to string, and then print that. Increment count, and then print that while loop ended. Okay, your code below. Run the code to see what happens on each iteration of the loop. When you're finished, comment out the example to make space for the rest of the checkpoints. Okay, let's run this. Starting while loop. Okay. That didn't work. Okay, to quickly comment out the code, use your mouse or cursor to highlight all the code and press Ctrl+I on a Windows machine. Is it I or L? Ctrl L, Ctrl I. Ctrl I. That didn't work. Okay. Let's run it again. It will just run. So I have to probably just do my hashes. I'm sure there'll be a way to do it. Okay. Your code below. Let's write. Oh yeah, wait, I ran this before. I did. Let's write a while loop that counts down from 10 to 0 inclusive. Let's write a while loop that counts down from 10 to 0 inclusive. Once our loop is finished, we will commemorate our accomplishment by printing we have liftoff. As we saw in the narrative, our key components will be a variable to keep track of the count, I think this is easy, so let's do count is equals to 10 while count is greater than or equals to 0, we will do the following. We will print count minus, is a decrement, Let's also add this thing. These guys are printing. Print. I think that works. Okay. Then once you're done, we remove the indentation and print the string. We have lift off. I don't think programmers will miss the hyphen. Okay. Or lift off, put as one word. Okay. Let's copy exactly as it is. All right. Let's read the example again. Let's write a while loop that counts down from 10 to 0 inclusive. Once our loop is finished, we'll commemorate our accomplishment by printing we have lift off. As we saw in the narrative, okay, our components will be a variable to keep track of the count and also help our loop eventually stop, a condition that our while loop will check on each iteration, several code statements to execute on each iteration of the loop. Let's tackle the first component first. Create a variable named countdown. Okay, not count, countdown. And set the value at 10. Okay, let's cut this off. I went ahead of the class. Okay, let's run that. Did I get a tick? Yes, I did. Okay, now let's tackle the actual while loop. Define a while loop that will run while the countdown variable is greater or equal to 0. That's what I've done. Control V. This is while. Sorry, cut off the W. Okay. So okay, now let's tackle while loop. Define a while loop that will run while the actual count. In each iteration, we should print the value of the countdown variable while countdown, not countdown is greater than print countdown. We should decrease the value of countdown by 1. Countdown minus equal. Okay. Make sure to only print the value of countdown. Okay, let's run that. Let's make a while loop that will run while our countdown variable is greater than or equal to 0. Greater than or equal to 0. We should print the value of countdown variable. Oh, we didn't put brackets here. Delete. That will have been a syntax error. And then countdown minus equals. Okay, let's run. Line 19. Yeah, that's a problem. Okay, let's do another way. Countdown minus. Does that work? I'm not sure. So countdown is equals to countdown minus 1. That's done that. Okay. Make sure so there is no decrement statement. Let me just see. Yeah, I know what I did wrong. I think minus equal still works. Let's run. Yep. Oh, sorry, I'm supposed to print here. Now we have liftoff. Okay, let's run it. Printed more than we have liftoff. Okay. Run. Great. Okay. Now let's tackle the actual loop. Okay, if you notice the run button spinning continuously or a lost connection in an exercise, you have an infinite loop. If the stop condition for our loop is never met, we'll create an infinite loop which stops our program from running anything else. To exit out of an infinite loop in an exercise, refresh the page, then fix the code for your loop. Okay, now that we have built our loop, let's commemorate our success by printing. We have liftoff after the while loop. Okay, we have liftoff after the while loop. Okay, fine. I think that's fine. Done. While loops list. A while loop isn't only good for counting. Similar to how we saw for loops working with lists, we can use while loops to iterate to a list as well. Let's return to our ingredients list. We know that while loops require some form of variable to track the condition of the loop to start and stop. Take some time to think about what we'd use to track whether we need to stop the loop if we want to iterate through ingredients and print every element. Take some time to think about what we would use to track whether we need to stop the loop if you want to iterate through. I think the index or something, every element. Click here to find out. We can use this length in addition. Now we can use length, okay, in addition to another variable to construct the while loop. We know that list has a predetermined length. If we use the length of the list as a basis for how our while loop needs to run, we can iterate the exact length of the list. We can use a built-in Python length function to accomplish this. Length would be equal to 5. Length is equal to len.ingredients, which gives us 5. We can then use length in addition to another variable to construct the while loop. Okay, length is equal to len.index is 0. Okay, while index is less than length, print ingredients at index. Then you increment the index. Let's break this down. Length will be 5 in this case. Length is equal to length of ingredients. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Okay, let's see. As mentioned, we need a way to know how many times we need our loop to be iterated based on the size of the collection. This comes in form of a length variable, which shows the value of the length on the list. Okay. Index starts at 0. Index is equal to 0 explanation. Okay. We still need an additional variable that will be used to compare against our length. While index is less than length, explanation. In our while loop, we will compare the index variable to the length of our list stored. In our while loop, we will compare the length of the index to the length of our list stored inside the length. On the first iteration, we'll be comparing the equivalent of 0 is less than 5, which will evaluate to true, start the execution of the loop. Inside of our loop body, we can use the index variable to access our ingredients and print the value of the current iteration. Since our index starts at 0, our first iteration, sorry, I read the whole thing, I'm just repeating because I have to read out loudly. Iteration will print the value of the element at the 0th index of our ingredients list, then the next iteration will print the value of the element at the first index. Okay. Increment index. Okay, our final output would be, let's use a while loop to iterate to some list. Okay, instructions. We're going to see, it's very important to read instructions, which we do, but what I've done is sometimes I try and figure out what I'm learning before I go to what is being read. That's why I sometimes go ahead and see, okay, we are going to write a while loop to iterate over the provided list Python topics. First, we will need a variable to represent the length of the list. This will help us know how many times our while loop needs to iterate, create a variable length, and sets its value to the length of Python topics. Okay, length is equals to len Python topics. That's a nice screen. Next, we will require a variable to compare to our length variable to make sure we are able to implement a condition that eventually allows the loop to stop. Create a variable called index and initialize at the value 0. Index is equals to 0. Okay, let's run that. All right. Let's now build our loop. We want our loop to iterate over the list of Python topics, and on each iteration print, I'm learning about that. For this loop, we will need the following components: a while loop, a statement in the loop, a statement in the body of the loop to increment. The end result should put out something like I'm learning about variables, I'm learning about control flow, I'm learning about loops, I'm learning about modules, I'm learning about classes. Looks easy peasy like pie, but that while index is less than length, let's do a colon. What we'll do is print the parameters will be Python topics, and we will do these are the other types of brackets. It's a list index. Is that, sorry, my keyboard, and number index. Okay, but that's not all we are printing. We are printing a string. I am learning about put a comma there. That should work. Print I am learning about, and I think a plus could also work. Yeah, I think both of these will work. Let's see. So length we have, index we have, while index is less than length, print I'm learning about something there. Okay, let's run. Oh, I have an infinite loop. Okay, I made an infinite loop. What did I do wrong? One moment, please. So I'll get a couple of wrongs. Let me just see and to do. Print. Let's just first check out. Length, okay. Let us just sorry. Print length, run that. So length is 5. Okay, great. So let's comment that. Okay, another index is equals to 0, while index is less than we didn't increment. That is what we didn't do. Okay, well, index is less than length. print okay, I think I know what I did wrong. Where was I? Okay. Next, we require a variable to compare. First, we need a variable to present the lists. This will help us know. Next, we require a variable to compare. Index, let us now build our loop. We want our loop to iterate over the first Python topics, and each iteration print I'm learning about. And then we do Python topics, square brackets, index, and what we need to do now is ensure that index is incremented by 1. Let's run it. Yep, I'm learning about variables, I'm learning about control flow, I'm learning about loops, I'm learning about modules. I'm removing the extra space, run it. Yep, and to also just check if instead of that I add a space at the end and then add a plus button and then run if it does the exact same thing. Yes, it does. Okay. Fuchs. Alright. So bug removed. The end result should put that. Okay. If you notice run button spinning continuously or a lost connection to Codecademy message in an exercise, you have an infinite loop. If the stop condition for a loop is never met, we will create an infinite loop which stops our program from running anything else to exit out of an infinite loop in an exercise to refresh the page, then fix the code in your loop, which is exactly what happened to me. Lesson learned. Infinite loops. We've iterated through lists that have a discrete beginning and an end. However, let's consider this example. My favorite numbers is equals to 4, 8, 15, 16, 42. For number in my favorite numbers, okay, for number in my favorite numbers dot append 1. Okay, so for every number in my favorite number we're going to append 1. That's an infinite loop. Okay, click to see what happens. Every time we enter the loop, we add a 1 to the end of the list that we're iterating through. As a result, we never make it to the end of the list. It keeps growing forever. A loop that never terminates is called an infinite loop. These are very dangerous for our code because they will make our program run forever and thus consume all of our computer resources. A program that hits an infinite loop often becomes completely unusable. Useless is what I was expecting. The best course of action is to avoid writing an infinite loop. If you accidentally stumble into an infinite loop while developing on your own machine, you can end the loop by using Ctrl+C to terminate the program. If you're writing code in our online editor, you'll need to refresh the page, get rid of the loop. Let's fix an infinite loop to see it in action. Suppose we have two student lists, students period A and student period B. We want to combine all students into students period B. In your code editor, we have provided you a loop. Go ahead and uncomment line 5, and before you run the code, ponder why this code would cause an infinite loop. Okay, so for student in student period A, student is a temporary variable, students period A. Okay, student period A dot append student. It keeps adding a student forever, and then you print student. Okay, that's when you already run this code. When would you notice happens? Over the run button, notice the loading cycle is continuing without anything happening. This is an infinite loop in this program. Let's refresh the page. The reason this loop is infinite is that we're adding each student in student period A, which would create a never-ending list of student names. Okay, so open this after refreshing the page. I say it refreshes for me automatically. Not yet disconnect from Codecademy. Lost connection to Codecademy automatically. Connecting. Oh, it's still running. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, thank goodness. So open this after delete the line causing the infinite loop and fix it to accomplish the original goal by combining all students from students period A into student period B. This is so easy but interesting. So let's look at this code. Now, for student, so the problem is that it was adding the name to the initial list period A, but what you want to do is to append them to period B, which is quite nice. So what I want to do is to move all these names from here into this, so there's only one list, if I understood the question. Suppose we have two lists, period A, period B. We want to combine all students in student period B. In a code editor, we have provided with a loop. Go ahead and uncomment the line. We made an infinite loop because of that error. So what we're appending is student. Let's run. Is that correct? It is. Okay, but I also want to do something else. Let's do print students period B. Let's see. Oh, missing parentheses. Okay, I do this quite a bit. Let's see. Do we have everybody there? Yes, we do. Dora, Minerva, Alex. I'm expecting Alexa, not Alex. Okay, Dora, Minerva, Alexa, Obi. And then Alex, Brianna, Sherry, Danielle. Very nice. Okay, let's go to next. Loop control or break. Loops in Python are very versatile. Python provides a set of control systems that we can use to get even more control out of our loops. Let's take a look at a common scenario that we may encounter to see a use case for loop control statements. Take the following list of items on sale as an example. Items on sale, you're selling blue shirts, striped socks, knit dress, red headband, and then also what? Okay. It's often the case that we want to search a list to check if a specific value exists. What does our loop look like if we want to search for the value of knit dress and print out found it? If it exists, it will look something like this. For items in items of list, if item is equals knit dress, print found it. Okay, but then at the end of that, you should stop, right? This code goes through each item in the sales and checks for the match. This is all fine and dandy, but what's the downside? Once knit dress is found in the list, we don't need to go through the rest of the item list on sale again. Unfortunately, a loop will keep running until we reach the end of the list. Since it's only 5 elements long, iterating through the entire list is not a big deal in this case. But what if items on sale had 1,000 items? What if it had 100,000? This would be a huge waste of time for our program. Thankfully, we can stop iteration from inside the loop by using the break control. When the program hits a break statement, immediately terminates it. For example, items on sale, blue shirt, blah blah, print checking the sale list for item on sale, if need break. Then after that we do a break. Okay, print end of search. This would produce the output: checking the cell list, blue shirt, strip socks, knit dress. When the loop entered the if statement and saw the break, it immediately ended the loop. We didn't need to check. You have a list of dog breeds you can adopt. Okay, that one we're just going to copy that because you're not typing that. Sorry. Using a for loop, iterate through the dog breeds list and print out each dog breed. Use temporary variable name of dog breed in your loop declaration. So we have that list. For dog breed in, what you want to do is what? Print out each dog breed. Is that it? Okay, French Bulldog, Dalmatian, Shih Tzu, Poodle, Collie. All right. Okay. Inside your for loop, after each print, each dog breed, inside your for loop, after you print each dog breed, check if the current element inside dog breed is equal to dog breed I want. If so, print they have the dog I want. If dog breed is equals to dog breed I want, I need a column there. We do print parentheses it's getting a bit more complicated. They have the dog I want. I think that should work. Let's run it. Oh, I left out this. That's what I left out. Okay. Add a break statement when your loop has found the dog breed I want so that the rest of the line does not need syntax error. Let's see. Okay, that column added was not necessary. Okay, fair enough. Okay, let me look at that again. I just need to look at the for loops. For something in there, do something. Okay, and then we have an if statement under the for loop. Fine. Loop control, continue. Oof. All right. So let's see. Where are we now? Loop control. While the break control statement come in handy, there are other situations where we don't want to end the loop entirely. What if you only want to skip the current iteration of the loop? Let's take this list of integers as an example. What if you want to print out all the numbers in a list, but only if they're positive integers? We can use another common loop control statement called continue. For I in big number list, if I is less than 0, continue, and then print I. This will produce, notice a few things. Similar to when we are using the break control statement, our continue statement is usually paired with some form of conditional if, elif, or else statement. When our loop first encountered an element that met the conditions of the if statement, it checked the code inside the block, and so they continue. When the loop then encounters, when the loop encounters, it immediately skips the current iteration, moves on to the next element. The output of the list only printed positive integers in the list because every time our loop entered if statement, so continue statement, it simply moved to the next iteration on the list. Okay, so let's continue learning about control statements with some exercises, pun intended, but I want to just check whether there is if. Okay, so indentation, the next one, yeah, okay, goes on the same line as if. Understood. Okay. Your computer is a doorman at a bar. My computer is a doorman. Really? At a bar in a country where the drinking age is 21. Okay. Loop through the ages list. If an entry is less than 21, skip it and move to the next entry. Otherwise, print the age. For age in ages, if age is 21, continue. That's what you're gonna do. Print age. I think I've nailed it. Let's run it. Yes. Good. So I think I left at 12 and 17. Those are the only guys who are out. Okay, fine. Are there countries where the drinking age is 21? Because it seems as if in Kenya the drinking age is like 6 years or 10 years or something. And then one sells alcohol to juniors, minors, nobody. They just perambulate the planet because the enforcers are more interested in other things. Nested loops. Loops can be nested in Python, as they can with other programming languages. We'll find certain situations that require nested loops. Suppose we're in charge of a science class that is split into 3 project teams. Project teams are Ava, Samantha, James, Lucille, and Zed, Edgar, and Gabriel. So those are basically, there's a nested list, I think. Using a for or while loop can be useful here to get each team. For team in project teams, print team. What would output? Ava, Samantha, James, Lucille, Zed, Edgar. Okay, makes sense. But what if you wanted to print each individual student? In this case, we'd actually need to nest our loops to be able to read through each sublist. Here is what it will look like. Loop through each sublist. There's some funny noise. I just need to go and check what it is. My apologies. Alright, we're back. The noise is from the neighbors. I'm not sure what they're doing, but yeah, one of my neighbors is doing something that's a bit banging. So let's see. What if we wanted to print each individual student? In this case, we'd actually need to nest our loops to be able to loop through each sublist. Here is what it would look like. For team, in project teams, loop elements in each sublist. For student, in team, print student. Interesting. This would output let's see. Interesting. Let's practice writing a nested loop. We have provided the list sales data that shows the number of scoops sold for different flavors of ice cream at 3 different locations: Codecademy, Gilbert's Creamery, and Magnus Scoop Shop. We want to sum up the total number of scoops sold across all 3 locations. Start by defining a variable scoops sold and set it at 0. Scoops sold 0. Let's run that. Okay. Loop through the sales data list using the following guidelines. For our temporary variable for the loop, call it location, print out each location list. Loop through sales data list using the following guidelines. For our temporary variable of the for loop, call it location. For location in sales data, print location. Okay, that worked. Within our sales data loop, sales data loop, nest a secondary loop to go through each location sublist element and add the element value scoops sold. Okay, within our sales data loop, this is what you've created. Nest a secondary loop to go through each location sublist element and add the element value to scoops sold. Okay, these are signs of fatigue. I'm sure the sentence is very simple. I've already even seen it in my head, but I need to read the sentence like 5 times. Okay. Next, a secondary loop to go through each location. Okay. Sublist element and add the element value to scope sort. For value in location value in location it worked. The value doesn't seem quite right. Is your final print statement unindented? Currently it is. Let me see. I'm getting 96, okay. Let's look at that again, okay. Print the value of scope sold outside the nested loop, okay. So within our sales data loop, nest a secondary loop to go through each location sublist element and add the element value to scope sold. For value in location, scope sold plus equals value. So 12 plus 17 is 29, that is 51, 53, 63, 66, 71, 83, 96. I'm getting 96. I'm not sure what the problem is. Within our sales data loop, nest a secondary loop to go through each location sublist element and add the element value to scopes sold. By the end, you should have the sum of every number in the sales data nested list. I should have the sum. My answer is 96. Scope sold is 0. For location in sales data, for value in location, scope sold plus equals print scope sold. And that's okay. Okay, let's check what the view solution. Let's see. Sales data, that's it. Scope sold is that. For location in sales data, we didn't print location. For value in location, scope sold plus increase value. I use the word value instead of element. And what it still does, print scope sold. That's okay. And to keep my code. So what I need to then do is print location. I think that's what it's looking at here and it's not finding. Wait, let's see. Let's see the solution they have. For location in, print location. That's what's missing in my data, but that's not part of the solution because print location. I don't think that's unnecessary because the answer remains the same. Let's run it. Yeah, that's what it wants me to keep the print location thing, but the value is still 96. So I don't think my value is still 96. I think there's a bit of a bug, but maybe not. The student. Next, okay. List comprehension introduction. So far we have seen many of the ideas about using loops in our code. Python prides itself on allowing programmers to write clean and elegant code. We have already seen this with Python giving us the ability to write while and for loops in single line. In this exercise, we're going to examine another way we can write elegant loops in our programs using list comprehensions. To start, let's say we had a list of integers and wanted to create a list where each element is doubled. We could accomplish this using a for loop and a new list called doubled. Okay, numbers to do. Doubled is equals to, for number in numbers, doubled dot append number times 2. Quite nice. Doubled dot append number times 2. Okay, print doubled. Okay, we dot put 4 minus 2. What is minus 1 squared? Oh, times 2, not, it's doubled, okay, not squared. Alright. Let's see how we can use the power of list comprehensions to solve these types of problems in one line. Here is our same problem, but now written as a list comprehension. Numbers is equals to that. Doubled is equals to number times 2 for number in numbers, print doubled. Doubled is equals to num times 2 for num numbers, okay? Let's break down our example in a more general way. New list is expression for element in collection. In our doubled example, a list comprehension takes an element in the list numbers, assigns that element to a variable called num. Our result will be the same. We have been given a list of grades in a physics class. Using a comprehension, create a new list called scaled grades that scales the class grades based on the highest score. Since the highest score was a 90, we simply want to add 10 points to all the grades in the list. Okay. Scaled grades is equals to let's make it grade plus 10. Sorry, I'm missing something in this conversation. For grade in grades. Okay, so grade plus 10 for grade in grades. So we're going to increment the grade by 10 for every grade in grades that becomes a new list called scaled grades. Okay, are we printing it? No, we are not. That's the next item. Print scaled grades. Okay. Next. List comprehensions conditional. List comprehensions are very flexible. We can even expand our examples to incorporate conditional logic. Suppose you want to double only our negative numbers from our previous numbers list. We will start by using a for loop and a list only negative numbers doubled. Numbers is equals to 2, blah, blah, blah. Only negative numbers doubled is equals to that. For number, in num, if num is less than 0, append num times 2, print that. Okay, makes sense. I think this makes sense if, okay, maybe it doesn't make sense if you haven't studied this, but if you have, it's very simple. This is the initial list. You want to double only negative numbers and store them in a new list called only negative numbers doubled. And so this is a for loop which will pick out each of these for number in numbers, and if the number is less than 0, it's going to do something, which is to append the number times 2 to the new list. Print only negative doubled. We don't put those two. Okay, now here is what our code would look like using a list comprehension. Numbers remains, negative doubled is number times 2 for num in numbers if num is less than 2. That's quite pretty. Print negative doubled would have put the same result. Okay. In a negative doubled example, our list comprehension takes element list numbers, assigns that num, checks the conditions, whatnot, repeats the step, blah, blah, blah. We can also use if-else conditions directly in our comprehensions. For example, let's say you want to double every negative number but triple all positive numbers. Here's what our code might look like. Doubles number times 2, if number less than 0, else number times 3, for num in num. I've noticed that if else comes before for num in the event there's an else. So I'll just check at some point whether it makes a difference, whether it comes before or after. And note, they've actually mentioned it in the note. This is a bit different. This is a bit different than our previous comprehension, since conditional, if num is less than 0, else num comes after the expression num times 2 but before our for keyword. The placement of the conditional expression within is dependent on whether or not an else clause is used. When an if statement is used without else, the conditional must go after the for in. If the conditional expression includes an else clause, the condition must go before for. Attempting to write the expression in the order will result in a syntax error. So that answer has already been given. Here are a few list comprehensions in a single block. Take a moment to compare how the syntax must change depending on whether or not an else clause is included. Numbers are those. Number if. Number times 2 for number in numbers. This will double everything, I think. If only, number times 2 for number in numbers. If number is less than 0, will only double the negatives. Okay, if else, number times 2 if number is less than 0, else number times 3 for number. Okay, now let's write our own list comprehensions with conditionals. We have defined a list of heights of visitors to a theme park. In order to ride the topsy-turvy Tumbletron roller coaster, you need to be above 161 centimeters. Using a list comprehension, create a new list called Can Ride Coaster that has every element from height that is greater than 161. Okay. Can ride coaster equals, it's a list. Let's make it height. Okay, it's dot append something I'm forgetting here. For let me see the examples we had. Let's go up a little bit. I've seen the difference. So if I was using the previous loop, if I would have if greater than 161, then you have can ride coaster dot append. And what we are doing is printing the height. And we have to have a for loop. Okay, but in this situation, negative numbers that append is equals to num times 2 for num in numbers if num is greater than less than 0. All right, so let's see. There's an example we got here. So here we're doing everything. If only for num in numbers if number is less than, okay, height in heights if height is greater than 161. I think that should sort out that problem. Let's just check. You've defined heights, visitors, using a list comprehension, create a new list called Conrad Costa that has every element from heights that is greater than 161. There's a syntax error here. Conrad Costa is equals to height for heights, for height in heights if height is greater than 161. Give me a green. Oh. Did you remember to define Conrad Costa? That's what I did. Oh, capital R. This one. Okay. Yeah. That's it. Okay. Capital R. That's literally why I got it wrong. Print can ride Costa. Print can ride Costa. Those are heights above 161. Okay. Interesting. So this is a bit more complicated. I think they get harder as you go along. Probably that's why it takes 6 weeks, but I still intend to finish in 2 weeks. Hopefully, I don't know whether that will work or not. Maybe it makes sense to 3. Good job in this lesson. You learned how to write a for loop, how to use a range in a loop, how to write a while loop, what infinite loops are and how to avoid them, how to control loops using break and continue, how to write elegant loops as list comprehensions. Let's get some more practice with these concepts. Create a list called single digits that consists of numbers 0 to 9 inclusive. Okay, that should be single digits is equals to range 0. How do you write 0? Is it like that? I'm not sure. Interesting. Okay. Create a for loop that goes through single digits and prints each one. For digit in single digits print digit. Very good. Before the loop, create a list called squares. Assign it to an empty list to begin with. Right. Run that. Okay. Inside the loop that iterates through single digits, append the squared value of each element of single digits the list squares. You can do this before or after printing the element. Sorry, someone at the gate. That's my niece Wendy. Just have a seat. Hey. In, guys. So I'm streaming live actually, so we are not offline. And let me just confirm that everything is still dapper. And I want to believe that it is actually. Okay. So let's see what's going on here. We are back on. So the next item was what? Inside the loop that iterates through single digits, append the squared value. That's why I'm number 4. Inside the loop that iterates through single digits, inside the loop that iterates through single digits, append the squared value of each element of single digits to the least squares. Let me see. Squares.append, and we're going to do digit. Is it like times the power, which is like 2x's, I think? And is it like 2 or something? Append the squared value of each element to the list. Okay, let's run that. Oh, that worked. So let's see that whether you understood what we're doing. We are saying we have a new list that we've created. It's called up squares. After the for loop, print out squares. After the for loop, print out squares. Okay. Print squares. Let's run that. Looks good. 0, 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, 81. Very nice. Okay, create the list cubes using a comprehension on the single digits list. Each element of cubes should be an element of single digits taken to the third power. Okay. So the next one is a comprehension. What you're doing is cubes is equals to there, sorry, not curlies, square brackets. And what will we have? We're going to have, call it a cube. 4 cube, let's give it times, let's make it power 3, 4 cube in single digits. Okay, cubes is equals to cube to power 3 for cube in single digits. Create a list cube using a list comprehension on the single digits. List each element of cubes should be an element of single digits taken to the third power. I think that should work. Yep, let's print cubes. Wendy, I'm learning programming. Let's run that. Yep, so 26, 64, and 25, 512. It's perfect. Okay. Because this was quite complicated, let us want to quickly review some of the concepts you've been learning. Take a look at this material through our cheat sheets. That's what I'm gonna do. Let's go through. Okay. Oh, there are cheat sheets for everything. Okay. Break keyword. The break keyword, that one I understand. Python list comprehension. A Python list comprehension provides a concise way of creating lists. It consists of brackets containing an expression followed by a clause, then zero. No? Python loops, it range infinite loops. So we'll have to probably bring this to a close. When did you set up the chessboard so that yeah, all right. Then we do what? Let's go back. All right. Fair enough. Okay. Up next. You did it. Start your next quiz. So this quiz I don't expect to do well at all because it's a fairly complicated thing that I was discussing. Okay, fill in the code to loop over the results, grouped topics, and print every element in. So for sublist in group topics, wait a minute, fill in the code to loop over the grouped topics and print every element in the list. For sublist element in print sublist. For sublist in grouped topics, for sublist in group topics, for sublist element in sublist, print sublist elements. Okay, check answer. That's interesting. Okay, what would be the output of the following code? Drink choices, that's a list: coffee, tea, water, juice, soda. For drink, in drink choices, print drink. For drink, in drink choices, print drink. It's going to have coffee, tea, water, juice, soda. Next. What will be the output of the following code? For I in range 3, print I. It will print 3 things. It will be, I think this is it. Now this question is starting at 0, 1, that's why I get a lot of mistakes, but yeah. Correct, the range function starts at 0 and prints up to the one before. Okay, next. Numbers is equals to 1, 1, 2, 3. For numbers, in number, if number modulus 2 is equals to 0, continue, otherwise you print number. For number in numbers, if number modulus 2 equals to 0, continue, otherwise print number. What it will do is if okay, what modulus means is that if you divide the number by 2, the remnant is 0. So basically it's 2 divided by 2. Would give you the remainder. Perfect division 0 is an even number. It will print out 1, 1, and 3. Continue, otherwise print the number. It will print this. Crazy. Which of these list comprehensions will create a list equal to desired list? Which of these list comprehensions will create a list equal to desired list? Range 5, not possible, because range 5 starts from 0. Desired list is equals to that 4. That's not a list comprehension, so that doesn't even work. Desired list is equals to, for I in range 5, desired list is equals to I desired list is equals to for I in range 5, for every element in range 5, desired list is equals to I minus 1. I minus 1 for I in range 5 looks like what I'm looking for. Okay, fill in the blank with the appropriate while condition in order to print the numbers 1 through 10 in order. Okay, fill in the blank with the appropriate while condition in order to print the numbers 1 through 10 in order. I is equals to 1. Sorry, I have a call. I have to take it. My apologies. So allow me to just mute this for a moment. I'll do so. And quick recovery. It's a friend. So let's do something. Okay, we're almost done. Once we're done with this quiz, I think that will be it for the day. And not for the day, but for this as I head out to Wendy, and then we'll come back to it later. Okay, fill in the blank with the appropriate while condition in order to print the numbers 1 through 10 in order. While I is less or equals to 10, print I, then increment. While I is less or equal to 10, print I. This is the one. Okay. Which of these list comprehensions will create a list equal to desired list? My list is 5, 10, minus 2, 8, 20. Desired list is 10, 8, 20. What has it done? It has taken lists that are above a certain value. Okay. For I in my list, if I is greater than 5, nope, that will have, yeah, actually that would work. For I in my list, if I is greater than 5, that would work. For I in my list will print everything. For I in my list, if I is greater than 10, we'll leave out 8. I plus 5 for I in my list would add 5 to every digit, and therefore the number is correct one is this. For I in range 3, print 5. Seriously. So that range is 0, 1, 2. It will print 5 every time. What would be the output of the following code? Numbers is equals to 2468. For number in numbers, print hello. 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going to print hello 4 times. So let's check again. Numbers is equals to, numbers is a list, 2468. For number in numbers, print hello. 1, 2, 3, 4. What will be the output of the following code? Numbers is equals to 1, 1, 2, 3. That's the list. For number in numbers, if number modulus 2 is equals to 0, basically you stop. Print number. So basically you're printing after the check, after the break. So you're only going to print 2 once. You print the first 2, the second one, you find the number 2 and you break at that point. So this is the number. 100%. Nice. And I thought that was going to be my most difficult one. Okay. Do I want to practice the concepts? Yes, I do want to practice the concepts. That should be done now so that I can release. Numbers is equals to 0, 254, 254. These guys are pants. 254 is the code for the country I'm in. Numbers is equal to 0, 254, 2 minus 1, 3. For in numbers, if num is less than 0, print negative number detected, break. Otherwise you print number. Okay. 0, 2, 254, 2 negative number detected. In a loop, the break keyword escapes regardless of the iteration number. Once break executes, the program will will continue to execute after the loop. In this example, that it will be 0 to 54. Python list comprehension. List comprehension for the squares of all even numbers between 0 and 9. Result is x to power 2 for x in range 10 if x modulus 2 is equals to 0. Result is equals to x to power 2 for x in that range if x modulus 2 is equals to 0. Meaning that it's an even number. So basically it's even numbers only. And we're saying we're going to square that for the numbers in that range. And those numbers will be 0 is counted as even, okay? 0, 2, 4, 6. Okay. Python for loop. For temporary variable in list variable, action statement. Each number in nums will be printed below. Nums as a list. For num in nums, print number. Okay. Python while loops. This loop will only run one time. Hungry is equals to true. While hungry, print time to eat. Hungry is equals to false. I is equals to 1 while I is less than 6, print I, but remember to increment. Python loops with range. Print for I in range 3, print I. For I in range 3, print warning. In Python, a for loop can be used to perform an action number of times in a row. The range function can be used to create a list that can be used to specify the number of iterations. Select the correct statement about the Python break word. The break keyword will escape the loop. Once break the program will terminate, the break keyword is used to split a list. Okay. Which of these lists comprehensions you create a list desired to the desired list? Okay, my list 5, 10, 12, 8, 20. Desired list is 10, 8, 20. So that basically removes I for I in my list if list is greater than 10. I for I in my list if list is greater than 5. I think this is a repeatable question we've seen before. Next. The following code block has two lists, words and Y words. The for loop iterates through words and appends any word that has a letter Y to Y words. Fill in the code correctly. For word in words if y in word y words dot append word. Okay. Container weights is a sorted list of integers ascending order. Select the Python code block that will print the elements. I'm actually quite exhausted now and it's way past 2 hours, but let's finish this one. Container weights is a sorted list of integers ascending order. Select the Python code block that will print the elements which are smaller than the number 40 in the console. Container weight is equals to 20, index is equals to 0, while container weight at the index is less than 40. Container is select Python code block that will print the elements which are smaller than the number 40 in the console, while the container weight index is less than 40. Print container weights index, increment the index. That sounds right. While container weights index greater than 40, print container weights index plus 1. That is wrong for the semantics. While index is less than the length of container weights, so while index is less than the length of container weights, print container weights while index is less than the length of the container weights. That will pretty much print almost everything no matter the weight, index plus 1. So this is the one that I'm looking for. Okay, for I in range 3, print I will print 0, 1, 2. Almost got a nice sleep. Yeah, okay. Back to dashboard. Let's see where we are. We're at 33%. Oh, every module has practice. So 5 of 21 concepts practiced. And I need to probably practice all the concepts. Okay, makes sense. So let's see. My latest projects: Lens Slice, Gradebook, South Shaping, Magic Ball. I've done all those. Then we can do. Let's start. Let's see what's there. I'm not gonna do it now, but I've got this already. Okay, let's go to the next one. Well done. Start the next article. But I've been here already, no? Combining the zip function. This I've read already. In Python, we have an assortment of building functions that allows us to build our programs faster. One of those is zip. The zip function allows to quickly combine and split data sets without needing to rely on two-dimensional lists. So, if you wanted to create a nested list that's paired with it, we could use the built-in function zip. So that will be names and heights is equal to zip names and heights. That we did already. Okay. Start the next lesson. I already gave my feedback. Exit that survey. And Have I not done this quiz for loops? Yep. Okay. So we get to the next project, but we'll not do it now. We'll go back to my home and see whether that changes my percentage performance. That 5%. Okay. So basically I'd pretty much done most of the work. So I have to do 15% in the next 2 days. I think I can easily be at 40% before. So I'm doing 5% every 2 hours, I think. That will mean that if I can do 6 hours today, I'll be at 50%. Can I? Absolutely. What's the time? It's 4. So if I'm back at 6 to midnight, I will be at 50% of. The only thing is whether I'll be able to remember everything that I'm studying, but there's quite a bit. There's no harm in repeating this over and over again, which is exactly what I'm going to do. Alright guys, it's been real learning programming with Codecademy. Thank you for joining. Please leave a comment. Old men studying programming. I'm just hoping that it's not too late because of AI, but still it's something that it will be kind of nice to be able to do. So that is it. Cheers. We have not quit chess. We'll still be doing that periodically with the girls. It's just that for now I'm learning coding. Bye.